I have a very unusual problem. I don't have a time machine. Now, I wouldn't travel back in time and tell my younger self to buy Apple stock, or to inform my younger self which hot and single actress is going to be rich and famous and, still hot in the future. No. I would go to only one time, to one place, to see one little boy, a cute and charming little guy with curly blonde hair and blue eyes, a boy with a disability who grew up in a small town in Germany. He could not run with the other kids or play soccer with them. He could not climb on their trees, and he lost every fight that he got into. A boy who was laughed at a lot and left behind often. A boy who was scared and shy and ashamed. A boy who was most of all afraid of his own future, who thought that he would never have the same possibilities as everyone else, and that there was nothing in the world that he could do about it. That boy was me. I probably gave that away when I said he was cute and charming, right? I was born with a neuromuscular condition called Spinal Muscular Atrophy, or SMA. And what that means is that the nerve fibers that run from my spinal cord to the muscles, they slowly die. So when my brain says, hey, let's lift that arm and wave it around a little bit, let's have some fun, and yes, my brain actually talks like that, then only fewer and fewer of the muscles that are involved in that movement get that command. These days, I'm using my crutch most of the time, and I guess I could probably walk around this stage here like once or twice using my crutch, but I'd write that off as today's workout. And I'm using my wheelchair when I go outside. When I was a kid, I was in much better physical shape. My nerve fibers hadn't had much time yet to go to greener pastures. I was out and about a lot, unless I got my hands on a new Amiga game, and then no one would see me for days or weeks. But I could already feel how my condition was progressing. The spurts of growth were the worst. I would literally wake up one morning and no longer be able to pick up my school backpack from the floor. I would come home after school, and for the first time I had to use the handrails to go up the stairs. On days like that, I was thinking, so now this is gone forever too? It felt like pieces of my life kept falling off. And to this day, my condition worsens every year, albeit at a much slower rate now that I've stopped growing. But what has changed is that I've become confident and outgoing and excited about my future. But these changes, they did not come about gradually. At least not for the most part. It took a single event. That event happened a few years ago, and it was a very dark time for me. My condition had made a terrible leap toward the worse, and I felt weaker and more disabled than ever before. It had gotten to a point where simple household chores like shopping or cooking would completely exhaust me. I would do the week's grocery shopping and the day was over. So one morning, I got up and I made some coffee. I still remember that day vividly. It was still dark outside on that cold spring morning. The soft rain was hitting the street outside. I sat down at the kitchen table and I took a piece of paper and a pen. And I wrote down all of the things that I would do if I were healthy. All of the things that I would do if I were strong and enduring, just like everyone else. I wrote down things about my life, my career, and fun activities that I had always wanted to try out. When I was finished, I read through that list again. and I got sad. I got sad, and then I got angry. I got angry at the universe because it kept so much from me. I had this energy and this ambition, but I could do none of those things, and I would never be able to do them. How would you feel if your dreams were forever out of your reach? As I was pondering my fate, something inside my head clicked. And honestly, guys, I don't know how or why it did. I think that after 30 years, I just finally had enough. And I got up and I slammed my fist down on the table and I yelled, "Screw this! I will fight." And I decided to stop being sad and angry and to make one last stand. If humanity, if people then told me over and over again that I couldn't do it, that I wasn't strong enough, that it wasn't safe for me, I'd give up. I'd give up. But not before. I made the resolution that every morning before I did anything else, I would do research about the things that I wanted to do. The dream that I wanted to start with was the oldest and the biggest dream that I had. I had this dream since I was this 4-year-old kid in kindergarten. I wanted to fly in a hang glider, fly free like a bird. So I started calling hang gliding schools and organizations. I told them what the situation was, and they would say, "Man, you have to run for a few meters in order to get airborne. Can you do that?" I said, no, I can't, but we'll get one hell of a YouTube video out of this. And so, sorry, man, we can't help you. We're really sorry. I ended these phone calls by saying, "Look, I'm not giving up so easily. Is there anyone else that I can call? Because I am going to call someone tomorrow, and if I don't have a new number, I'll call you again." So that little blackmailing operation went on for a while until one morning I got this. "Hey, yeah, we have a hang glider here with a set of wheels. We just strap you in there somehow, and your feet won't even touch the ground. Hey, do you have time on Sunday?" Following Sunday, I drove down there, and as soon as I arrived, I realized that it would be much harder than I thought. I had to wear this flight harness that looked like a sleeping bag, but it felt as if someone had filled it with lead. It was so heavy, I could hardly stand in that thing, let alone walk. Half a dozen people gathered to help me walk to the glider. They supported me as I ducked under the wing and climbed over the bars and wires until they could finally hook my harness into the airframe. Then the pilot climbed into position directly below me, so I'm hanging like this under the wing, and the pilot climbs right here. And we had a second glider, a motorized glider that towed us up to a height of 1,000 meters. And there, it left us to ourselves. It released the tow rope. We were all by ourselves. I find it hard to explain how it was up there, with nothing around me but a few meters of cloth to keep me up in the air. When I looked down, the houses and cars, they were so small. I couldn't even see people anymore. And even the birds that had seemed to fly so high before, they were now these tiny white spots below us. I felt incredibly happy. Then something happened. The pilot, he's directly below me, he's flying, and he turns his head to me and he yells, "Hey, Michael, you'll fly." I said, "I what?" And he said, "Yeah, come on, buddy, this is gonna be fun, you'll fly." I said, "All right." So I freed my hands and I reached around the pilot and I grabbed the bar. And I flew. moments in my life took my breath away, like the following minutes. I was this 4-year-old kid again who finally flew, even though for my entire life I thought that I would never be able to do that. I became very quiet. My mind was not only processing this experience, this moment up there, it was processing an entire shift in my worldview. It was then and there, 1,000 meters up in the air, doing turns, that I realized the only thing that ever stood between myself and my dreams was the stuff that I imagined. When we touched back down again, I was no longer the same. I was bouncing with joy and possibility, like a gummy bear on crack cocaine. Fast forward to a few months later. I had moved to New Zealand to live and work there for 2 years. I was an animator on TV shows like The Penguins of Madagascar and Kung Fu Panda, shows that kids all over the world, they watch these every day, and I had the chance to help make them. I had jumped off the highest building the country had to offer, and I screamed my lungs out as I fell towards solid ground. I had myself pushed out of an airplane, and I skydived through clouds. I went dancing, and that's a talk in its own right, and scuba diving. I flew through an airshow routine in an acrobatic airplane, and I managed to pass out at 5G. I tried myself on surfing and jet skiing. Guys, I'm so glad that none of my friends had shot a video of that. I met people that I wanted to meet all my life, and so much more. One day I sat at the beach during my lunch break, and I remembered this list that I had written in what seemed like a lifetime ago. Everything had changed since then, but it had only been a few months, not even a year, since that fateful morning in the kitchen. I remembered that I had a copy of that list on my phone, so I reached for my phone and I brushed off the sand and I read through the list again. I had done every single thing on that list. Thanks. Only then did I realize myself how profoundly my thinking had shifted since I was this little kid. Now then, what if I had a time machine? I would travel back to this boy who was so scared and so ashamed. I would take him to the side. Because, you know, in the 80s, you could still take a little boy to the side without someone calling the cops. And I would tell him the most important things that I've learned since then. This is what I would tell him. Never believe that your disability is a burden. Because the things that you will achieve in your life, you will achieve because of your disability and not despite of it. Your disability will teach you many things. It will teach you to find incredible strength if you let it. It will teach you to think outside of the box, because Michael, outside of the box, man, that is where you live. I would tell myself not to be so afraid. No, that's not true, because being afraid is not a choice, is it? I would tell myself, you can be afraid, and you often will be. But what you can choose is to be courageous despite your fear, to try anyway, to ask anyway, to go anyway. The most important thing that I would tell myself is you have to take full responsibility for everything in your life. Because you, of all people, you have every excuse in the world not to do anything. If you blame your unhappiness on your disability, everyone out there is going to agree with you. You'll never have to convince anyone. And because of that, you can't make excuses. Yes, your disability is not your fault, it's no one's fault, but it's going to be easy to blame things on people or circumstances and then wait for things to change. Instead, you have to take full responsibility for it, and then you have the power to change things. Yeah, so what if I had a time machine? Well, I don't have one. I can't go back and tell my 10-year-old self all of that. He will have to find out the hard way. But I can do something that's even better. I can tell the rest of the world what I've learned. So instead of ending this talk by saying, hey, if I can do it, you can do it too. And yeah, that actually feels phony. I will instead say this. Every challenge and every burden comes with something that is good as well. And sometimes we might be better off to cherish that than to complain about the other. Because this is a choice, guys, a choice between complaining and being grateful. It's an important choice. It will change your life. Thank you.